Aaron wiped the sweat from his forehead and leaned back against the worn steel wall of the shipyard hangar. The midday sun shone brightly through the large windows, scattering light across rows of starships in various states of repair. Some gleamed like new, sleek and shining, with polished metal that reflected the sunlight. Others, like the ones Aaron preferred, were old, rusted, and forgotten. Among all of them, one ship stood out. It was the oldest and most battered vessel in the hangar, a wreck that looked like it had been abandoned for decades. Aaron's friends and colleagues often mocked him for his choice of work. While they preferred the prestige of maintaining the latest starships, Aaron saw beauty in the old ones. Each dent, scratch, and patched hole told a story, and he loved uncovering those stories piece by piece. "Aaron, why do you waste your time on that pile of junk?" called Jalen, one of the newer mechanics, his tone dripping with mockery. "That ship will never fly again. You're just chasing ghosts." Aaron didn't respond at first. He was too busy examining a panel on the ship's side, carefully wiping away years of dust and corrosion. "It's not junk," he said finally, his voice calm but firm. "It has a history. I just need to find it." Jalen shook his head, laughing as he walked away. Others joined in, whispering and pointing. Aaron could feel their eyes on him, judging him. Yet he refused to let their mockery distract him. Deep down, he knew he had a purpose, even if no one else could see it. The ship, which the port workers had nicknamed the Rusty Phantom, was massive. Its design was unlike any of the modern starships in the hangar. The hull was scratched and dented, and many of its panels were missing or hanging loose. Its engines were silent, covered in layers of dust and grime. But to Aaron, it was like finding a rare gemstone hidden in the dirt. He traced his hand along the ship's hull, feeling the cold metal under his fingers. There was something familiar about it, though he couldn't explain why. Every day after finishing work on the new starships, Aaron stayed behind to study the old wreck. He took out his tools, carefully prying open panels, cleaning circuits, and examining wires. Sometimes he would sketch diagrams in his notebook, trying to understand the ship's original design. He noticed small details that no one else seemed to care about. A unique symbol etched near the cockpit, a pattern of circuits that seemed unusually advanced for its time. At first, progress was slow. Many parts were missing or corroded beyond repair. But Aaron was patient. He salvaged components from other abandoned ships, cleaned them, and modified them to fit. He spent hours soldering tiny wires, polishing circuits, and testing systems that hadn't worked in decades. Each small success made him smile, and he often whispered to himself, "Just a little more, old friend. We'll get there." One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the hangar lights glowed softly, Aaron climbed into the cockpit. The seats were dusty, the controls sticky with grime, but he could already imagine what it would feel like when the ship was alive again. He placed his hand on the central console, closed his eyes and imagined the engines humming, the lights flickering to life, and the ship responding to his touch. "Crazy," someone said from behind him. Aaron opened his eyes to see a group of younger mechanics leaning against the doorway, smirking. "Talking to a dead ship now? You really have no shame, Aaron." He smiled gently. "It's not dead," he replied. "It's sleeping, and I'm going to wake it." The mockery didn't bother him anymore. Over time, Aaron had learned to ignore it. What mattered was his connection to the ship, the small progress he could make every day. He worked late into the night, carefully repairing the navigation systems, reconnecting the power circuits, and cleaning every panel until it shone. Sometimes he fell asleep in the cockpit, surrounded by the smell of oil and metal, dreaming of the ship soaring through the stars once again. One day, while examining the engine compartment, Aaron discovered something remarkable. Hidden beneath layers of rust was a small data core, intact despite the ship's decay. It pulsed faintly with energy, almost as if it were waiting for him. His hands trembled as he carefully removed it, wiping off the dust. On the core was a name etched in delicate lettering, Aurora. Aaron felt a thrill of excitement. The ship had a name. It wasn't just a random vessel, it had a story, a life of its own. He held the core close, imagining the adventures it might have experienced before being abandoned. For the first time, He wondered if the ship could somehow communicate with him. That night, he stayed in the cockpit longer than usual, examining the data core and attempting to access the ship's systems. He connected it to a small console he had built, carefully entering commands and running diagnostics. The lights on the control panel flickered to life, one by one. A soft hum resonated through the ship, vibrating faintly beneath his hands. Aaron's heart raced. Could it be? After all these years of silence, was the ship responding? "Easy, old friend," he whispered. "Just a little more." Hours passed, and the hangar emptied. The other mechanics had gone home, leaving Aaron alone with the rusty Phantom. Outside, the stars began to shine, and the city's lights twinkled in the distance. Inside, the ship seemed almost alive, as if it were breathing slowly, awakening from a long sleep. Then it happened. A soft, barely audible voice whispered through the cockpit speakers. "Aaron." He froze. His hands shook, and his mouth went dry. The voice was faint but unmistakable. It spoke his name. "What?" he stammered, looking around to see if anyone else was there. But the hangar was empty. Only the old ship and him remained. "Aaron," the voice repeated, clearer this time, warm and gentle. It wasn't coming from the speakers, it was as if the ship itself were calling to him. Tears filled his eyes. All those days of hard work, all the mockery, all the late nights, they had led to this moment. The ship, the Aurora, was alive, and it knew him. Aaron leaned back, listening intently as the soft hum of the engines resonated through the cockpit. He could feel a connection, subtle and powerful, like the ship recognized him as its caretaker. For the first time, he understood something he had always felt deep inside. Machines, when treated with care and respect, could hold memories, emotions, even a consciousness of their own. The following days were filled with wonder. Aaron spoke to the ship, learning its patterns and responses. The Aurora seemed curious about him, guiding his hands when he repaired delicate circuits, flashing lights in patterns that seemed like words, and even adjusting systems as if testing him. Every small interaction brought them closer, forming a bond that went beyond human and machine. Yet Aaron remained humble. He knew that he had been lucky to find the ship and awaken it. He didn't flaunt it to others or seek praise. Instead, he focused on learning everything he could about the Aurora, carefully restoring systems and exploring the hidden compartments that contained star maps, tools, and mysterious devices from decades past. The port workers continued to mock him at first, but over time, their laughter faded. They watched curiously as the once-forgotten ship began to shine, its hull polished, its systems responding to Aaron's touch. Some even whispered in awe when they saw lights flicker and engines hum as he worked. Aaron smiled quietly. He didn't need their approval. The Aurora was alive, and that was enough. Together, they would uncover the secrets of the past and perhaps explore the stars once more. For the first time, Aaron felt a sense of purpose stronger than any doubt or ridicule. The old wreck was no longer a forgotten relic. It was a friend, a companion, and a partner in an adventure that had only just begun. And deep inside, he knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would change both their lives forever. Aaron could hardly sleep that night. He lay on a cot in his small apartment above the hangar, his mind replaying the moment the ship had spoken his name. Aurora. It actually called me. The thought sent shivers down his spine. He had always believed in the old ship's potential, but never had he imagined that it could be conscious, aware, or alive. By morning, he was back in the hangar. The sunlight poured through the large windows, casting warm beams across the workshop. The other mechanics had started their day, moving quickly from one modern starship to another, but Aaron didn't notice them. His full attention was on the Aurora. He climbed into the cockpit and pressed a hand to the console. "Good morning, old friend," he said softly. The console lights blinked gently, and the soft hum of the engines vibrated beneath his palms. It was subtle, almost shy, as if the ship were acknowledging him without needing to speak. Aaron began running diagnostics again, but this time the ship responded differently. Circuits that had previously been silent now flickered with life. Data streamed across the screens, and a gentle vibration pulsed through the hull. The Aurora seemed eager, excited even, to show what it could do. "Do you understand me?" Aaron asked, almost whispering. A soft light flashed in response. Then a voice, clearer than the night before, echoed in the cockpit. "I remember." Aaron froze, feeling a mixture of awe and disbelief. "Remember? Remember what?" "You," the voice said. "And the stars." It was strange and wonderful. The ship wasn't just speaking words, it was sharing fragments of thought and memory, piecing together a story that had been lost in time. Aaron realized that the Aurora was more than metal and circuits. It held experiences, history, and perhaps even emotions. Over the next few days, Aaron dedicated every hour he could spare to working with the ship. He explored the control panels, cleaned every circuit, and replaced parts with care. The Aurora responded to his touch, guiding him as he repaired delicate wiring and recalibrated systems. Sometimes lights would flicker in patterns that seemed almost like expressions, and engines would hum softly in response to his presence. One afternoon, while adjusting the navigation console, Aaron discovered a hidden compartment beneath the pilot's seat. He carefully opened it and found a stack of data crystals, each labeled with dates and coordinates. His eyes widened as he realized what they were: records of past journeys the Aurora had taken. These were logs from decades ago, of star systems that few had ever visited, and phenomena that had never been documented. He inserted the first crystal into the console. A soft glow filled the cockpit, and a holographic map sprang to life, showing the paths the ship had traveled. Stars, planets, and nebulae moved across the projection, and Aaron could almost feel the Aurora's excitement as it remembered each journey. These are incredible," Aaron whispered. "You've seen places no one else has." A hum filled the cockpit, and the voice said, "We can again." Aaron's heart raced. "We can again?" The ship wanted to fly to explore the stars once more. He smiled, imagining the possibilities. Together, they could discover wonders that no human or machine had ever seen. Over the next week, Aaron and the Aurora continued to bond. The ship began to anticipate his actions, guiding his hands when he worked on complex repairs. Lights on the control panels blinked in sequences that seemed to match his thoughts. Occasionally, the ship would emit soft melodic tones, almost like music, which made Aaron laugh in delight. The other mechanics noticed the change in the hangar. The once-forgotten wreck now hummed with life, and strange lights often flickered from the cockpit windows. Some whispered that Aaron had gone mad, talking to a machine as if it were a living creature. Others, curious and cautious, watched from a distance, marveling at the subtle yet undeniable signs of life in the old ship. Aaron didn't mind. He had never sought approval. What mattered was the connection he shared with the Aurora, and the feeling that together they were accomplishing something extraordinary. One evening, as the hangar grew quiet, Aaron sat in the cockpit and asked, "Can you tell me more about your journeys, about yourself?" The lights on the console pulsed softly, and the voice replied, "Long ago, stars, far, many places." Aaron nodded, understanding that the ship's memories were vast, and that it would take time to share them fully. He spent hours listening, guiding the ship as it projected faint images of star systems, asteroid belts, and distant planets onto the cockpit's holographic display. Though the visuals were faint and fragmented, they were enough to show the beauty and scale of what the Aurora had once experienced. Then, unexpectedly, the ship spoke in a way Aaron had never heard before. "Aaron, chosen." The word startled him. "Chosen? Chosen for what?" he asked. The Aurora hummed, a low vibration filling the cockpit. "Together, we journey." Aaron's eyes widened. It wasn't just acknowledging him, it was inviting him. The ship wanted him as a partner, not merely a mechanic. The realization filled him with pride, wonder, and a little fear. Could he really pilot a ship like the Aurora? Could they explore the universe together? He took a deep breath. "Yes," he said firmly. "Yes, we'll journey together." From that moment on, their partnership grew stronger. The Aurora became more responsive, and Aaron's confidence in repairing and understanding the ship increased. They worked in harmony, each learning from the other. The ship's memory banks revealed more secrets, maps to hidden star systems, technological blueprints far ahead of current designs, and logs of interactions with other civilizations long forgotten. Aaron realized that the Aurora wasn't just a ship, it was a library of knowledge, a guide to the stars, and a friend. It trusted him, and in return, he dedicated himself to ensuring that it was restored to its full potential. Curiosity pushed Aaron further. He began experimenting with the ship's systems in ways no mechanic had dared. He tested propulsion circuits, explored energy conduits, and fine-tuned the navigation controls. Each time, the Aurora responded with subtle encouragement, a soft glow, a gentle vibration, or a melodic tone. Sometimes it seemed playful, as if teasing him with its advanced capabilities. Word of Aaron's progress slowly spread through the port. Mechanics and engineers began to peek into the hangar, curious to see what the young man and the old ship were accomplishing. Some were skeptical, but even the harshest critics could not deny the signs of life in the Aurora. One afternoon, Jalen, the mechanic who had once mocked him, approached cautiously. "Aaron, it's moving?" he stammered, pointing to the faint vibrations and blinking lights on the hull. "How is this even possible?" Aaron smiled softly. "It's not just moving," he replied. "It's alive, and it's been waiting for someone to care for it properly." Jalen looked stunned, then shook his head. I don't understand." "You will," Aaron said quietly, returning his attention to the ship. "But for now, just watch." The Aurora's systems continued to awaken. Displays flickered to life, engines hummed in sync with Aaron's touch, and lights traced patterns across the cockpit that seemed almost like language. Aaron listened carefully, responding with gentle adjustments, coaxing the ship to share more of its memories. By nightfall, the hangar was silent again. Aaron sat in the cockpit, tired but exhilarated. The ship glowed softly around him, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat. For the first time, he felt a true sense of companionship with the machine. The Aurora was not just a project, it was a friend, a partner, and a guide to the stars. Aaron realized that the journey ahead would be long. There were systems to repair, secrets to uncover, and perhaps adventures to experience that no human had ever dreamed of. But for the first time in his life, he felt ready. Together, he and the Aurora could explore the universe, uncover the mysteries of the stars, and write a new chapter in the story of humanity. And as he rested his hand on the console one last time before leaving for the night, the voice whispered softly, "Together, always." Aaron smiled, closing his eyes. The ship had chosen him, and he had chosen the ship. Their journey was only beginning, and the stars awaited. Days passed, and Aaron's bond with the Aurora grew stronger. The ship seemed almost eager for him to explore its systems, and in turn, Aaron felt a growing excitement and responsibility. Every repair, every adjustment, was no longer just maintenance, it was a dialogue. The Aurora responded to his careful hands with hums, flashes of light, and soft tones that felt like understanding. The hangar, once filled with mocking voices, now whispered with curiosity. Mechanics who had doubted Aaron watched in awe as the old wreck glimmered with life. The rusty Phantom, as the ship had once been called, now pulsed with energy, and the intricate designs on its hull began to shine beneath the layers of dust. Aaron spent hours exploring the Aurora's hidden compartments. Behind panels that had seemed solid for decades, he found tools and devices that had been forgotten by time. Some were simple starship equipment, but others were clearly advanced technology, systems far beyond what the port's engineers had ever seen. Aaron carefully studied each device, making notes and sketches, amazed at the ingenuity of the ship's creators. One afternoon, while investigating a section of the ship near the engines, Aaron discovered a small, hidden storage bay. Inside, a cluster of crystalline data units lay stacked neatly, humming faintly with stored energy. He gently lifted one and inserted it into the console. The ship's lights brightened, and a holographic display appeared, revealing a map of distant star systems. These were places Aaron had only ever read about in history books or seen in simulations. The Aurora had traveled farther than any modern starship, its journeys recorded, yet waiting for someone to understand them. This is amazing, Aaron whispered. You've been to places no one else has seen. A soft vibration pulsed beneath his hand, and the ship responded in its gentle voice. We can again. Aaron's heart raced. The Aurora wasn't just recalling its past, it was inviting him to continue its journey. A wave of exhilaration surged through him. The possibilities were endless. Unexplored systems, forgotten civilizations, and wonders beyond imagination. He had thought of the ship as a project at first, but now he realized it was a companion, a partner, and a teacher. Over the next week, Aaron and the Aurora continued to explore the ship together. The Aurora guided him to delicate circuits, teaching him how to repair and enhance systems he had never understood before. In return, Aaron's care and patience coaxed the ship into revealing more of its hidden knowledge. Lights blinked in intricate patterns, and soft melodies hummed from the engines, almost like communication. One evening, as the sun set over the port, Aaron discovered a console in the cockpit that seemed completely untouched. Its design was unique, unlike any of the other systems. When he activated it, the display came alive, showing a simulation of a distant planet covered in forests, rivers, and mountains. The holographic view rotated slowly, giving him a sense of the planet's size and scale. "Where is this?" he asked. "Aurora," the ship hummed. "Ancient. Home." Aaron studied the image in awe. It wasn't just a planet. It was a record of a place that the Aurora had once visited, a world lost to history. For the first time, he realized that the ship's memories weren't limited to star maps or technology. They held stories of life, exploration, and discovery. Excited, he began documenting everything, taking notes, drawing diagrams, and making careful observations. Each discovery deepened his connection with the ship. He felt as though the Aurora was teaching him not just about space, but about patience, observation, and the value of curiosity. The other mechanics, initially skeptical, began to approach Aaron with questions. Some were cautious, others genuinely intrigued. "How are you doing this?" Jalen asked one day, staring at the softly glowing cockpit. "It's alive?" "Yes," Aaron said simply. "And it's more than alive. It remembers, it learns, and it trusts me. That's why it's responding." Jalen shook his head in disbelief, but his tone was less mocking. I never thought a ship could feel?" Aaron smiled quietly. "It's not exactly like humans," he said, "but it does have something like a memory, and it can communicate. All it needed was someone who cared enough to listen." As days turned into weeks, Aaron began preparing the Aurora for its first real test flight. He cleaned the engines, checked every system, and made minor enhancements. The ship responded in kind, humming and pulsing as if encouraging him. When he calibrated the navigation system, the Aurora displayed a faint glow that seemed like approval. When he tested the energy conduits, the hum of the engines deepened, almost like excitement. During one particularly quiet evening, Aaron sat in the cockpit, gazing at the stars through the hangar windows. "We'll need to be careful," he said softly. "I want to explore, but I also want to protect you. No one has been able to take care of you like this before." The ship pulsed gently under his hands, and the familiar voice spoke. "Trust, together." Aaron felt a warmth in his chest. He had never experienced this with any other machine. The Aurora wasn't just a ship. It was a companion, a friend, and now, a partner in the adventure that awaited them. The partnership between Aaron and the ship grew stronger each day. They discovered hidden energy reserves that allowed for longer journeys, systems that had never been activated before, and a navigation interface that could project three-dimensional star maps with incredible detail. Each discovery reminded Aaron of the vastness of the universe and the potential that lay ahead. One morning, Aaron found a small storage unit beneath the captain's seat. Inside were old logs, written in a combination of symbols and coded language. As he translated them with the Aurora's assistance, he realized they contained personal records of the ship's previous crew. Tales of discovery, moments of wonder, and even small anecdotes of life aboard the vessel filled the logs. "This is incredible," Aaron said, reading one entry aloud. They, they lived among the stars, just like we will." The Aurora hummed softly. "Remember, learn, continue." Aaron nodded. He understood that their journey was not just about exploration. It was about honoring the past, learning from it, and continuing the legacy of curiosity and discovery. The hangar became a place of quiet reverence. Mechanics who once mocked Aaron now watched with awe as he worked alongside the living ship. Children visiting the port would peek through the windows, eyes wide, fascinated by the glowing cockpit and the faint melodic hum of the engines. Aaron welcomed their curiosity, explaining gently that the Aurora was special, a bridge between history and the future, a reminder of what humans could achieve with patience, care, and imagination. One evening, as Aaron was finishing repairs on the propulsion system, he asked the Aurora a question that had been on his mind for days. "Do you trust me completely?" The ship responded with a soft vibration that ran through the hull and a gentle hum that resonated in the cockpit. "Yes, Aaron. Together. Journey." Tears filled his eyes. For all the mockery, all the doubt, and all the nights spent alone in the hangar, this was the moment that mattered. The ship had chosen him, and he had chosen the ship. Their bond was unbreakable, built on trust, care, and a shared dream of exploration. By the end of the week, Aaron knew they were ready. The Aurora was restored to full function, its engines humming smoothly, its navigation systems precise, and its energy reserves fully charged. The ship's glow was steady, no longer the hesitant flicker of a machine awakening, but a confident radiance, as if it had been waiting for this moment for decades. Aaron stood outside the cockpit, looking at the ship that had once been a forgotten wreck. "We're ready," he said softly. "Are you ready?" The ship responded with a gentle vibration, the lights pulsing rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. "Yes, Aaron. Ready?" For the first time, Aaron felt the weight of what they were about to do. Beyond the hangar lay the stars, vast and unknown. But with the Aurora by his side, he no longer felt fear. They had learned to trust each other, to communicate without words, and to understand the value of patience and care. Together, they could face the universe. As the sun set and the hangar lights reflected off the polished hull, Aaron felt a sense of anticipation unlike anything he had ever known. Tomorrow, they would take their first flight, a journey not just through space, but into history, discovery, and the unknown. The Aurora, alive and aware, waited for him, and he waited for it. Together, they were ready to explore, to uncover secrets, and to write the next chapter of a story that had begun long before either of them had arrived. And for Aaron, the mechanic once mocked for repairing an old wreck, the realization was clear. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries come from patience, care, and the courage to see value where others see none. The stars awaited, and for the first time, Aaron knew they would not be alone. The hangar was quiet that morning. Aaron stood before the Aurora, taking a deep breath as he ran his hands along the ship's polished hull. The once forgotten wreck now gleamed with life and energy. Its engines hummed softly, and the soft lights along its sides pulsed like a heartbeat. The ship had awakened fully, and the bond between mechanic and machine had never been stronger. "Are you ready?" Aaron whispered, placing a hand on the cockpit console. A gentle vibration ran through the hull, accompanied by the familiar voice. "Yes, Aaron. Together. Journey." Aaron smiled. He knew the ship was ready. For weeks they had prepared, repaired, and learned together. Every system had been tested, every hidden compartment explored. Now it was time to leave the hangar and step into the stars. The port workers, who had once mocked him, gathered quietly to watch. Some were curious, others were awestruck, but no one dared to interrupt. They had seen the ship move on its own, seen lights flicker and engines hum, and now they could witness history in the making. Aaron climbed into the cockpit, the familiar hum of the ship vibrating beneath him. He glanced at the navigation console, reviewing the coordinates they had chosen for the first flight. It was a simple route, around nearby asteroids and through the lower orbit of a distant moon, but it was enough to test the ship and themselves. "Engines online," he said softly. The Aurora responded with a deep, steady vibration, lights glowing brighter along the hull. The control panel flickered, and a gentle voice spoke. "Ready. Lift." Aaron pressed the controls and the ship began to rise. The hangar doors opened, letting sunlight flood in as the Aurora lifted slowly, hovering above the ground. The port workers gasped in awe. For the first time, they saw the old ship not as a wreck, but as a living, breathing vessel ready to reclaim its place among the stars. Aaron guided the ship forward, testing its controls. The engines responded perfectly, and the Aurora hummed with energy, as if enjoying its first flight in decades. Every movement was smooth, precise, and full of life. Aaron could feel the ship's awareness, almost like it was guiding him, and together they moved with perfect harmony. As they left the atmosphere of the planet, Aaron watched the city shrink below them. The streets, the buildings, and the hangar where he had spent so many nights all became tiny dots in the distance. Above, the stars stretched endlessly, and the Aurora pulsed with excitement, its lights reflecting on the cockpit walls. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Aaron whispered. "We've only just begun." The ship responded with a soft vibration, and the lights along the console blinked in patterns that Aaron had learned to interpret as agreement. For the first time, he felt the true scale of their journey. They were no longer bound by the hangar, the city, or the limitations of others' expectations. Together, they could explore worlds no human had seen, uncover mysteries no mind had imagined, and experience the universe in a way few could even dream of. Their first course took them near a cluster of small asteroids. Aaron navigated carefully, feeling the Aurora's subtle guidance as they wove between rocks with precision. The ship's lights traced the edges of the asteroids, illuminating their surfaces in soft white and blue glows. Aaron laughed softly in delight. "We're really doing it, old friend. We're flying." The Aurora pulsed in response, and a soft tone filled the cockpit, almost like laughter in its own mechanical way. Aaron realized that the ship was enjoying itself as much as he was. It was alive, aware, and sharing this incredible moment with him. After clearing the asteroid field, they set course toward a distant moon. The Aurora's sensors began scanning the surface, sending holographic maps to the cockpit display. Aaron studied the data carefully, noting patterns, elevations, and features. He realized that the ship held knowledge far beyond the port's technology. It was a treasure trove of exploration, waiting for someone to understand and use it wisely. "Look at this," he whispered. "We could explore the entire moon, map it, study it, understand it." A soft vibration pulsed beneath him, and the lights on the control panels blinked in approval. The Aurora seemed to nod, confirming that Aaron's excitement matched its own. Hours passed as they orbited the moon. Aaron adjusted the engines, experimented with the navigation system, and explored every detail the ship had to offer. The Aurora responded with gentle guidance, helping him learn its systems more deeply. Every moment was a lesson, and every lesson strengthened their bond. As night fell across the moon's surface, Aaron leaned back in his seat. The stars shone brilliantly above, countless points of light stretching into infinity. He felt small, yet powerful, connected to something larger than himself. The Aurora hummed softly, a reminder that they were not alone in this vast universe. Suddenly, the ship projected a holographic display of a distant star system. Aaron gasped. "You've been here before?" "Yes, long ago," the ship replied. "Memories. Distant." Aaron studied the system. Planets with rings, moons, and swirling clouds floated in the holographic display. It was breathtaking, unlike anything he had seen in simulations or books. The Aurora's knowledge was vast, and now, with him as its partner, they could continue the exploration. "Then let's go," Aaron said, determination in his voice. "Let's see it again." The ship pulsed with energy, engines humming deeply as it accelerated. The cockpit lights flickered in excitement, and Aaron felt the thrill of true exploration. They weren't just flying. They were reclaiming lost history, experiencing the universe in a way that was both scientific and personal. As they traveled, the Aurora shared more of its memories. Images of distant worlds, alien landscapes, and celestial phenomena filled the holographic displays. Aaron took notes, sketches, and mental photographs of everything. He realized that the ship's experiences were a gift, an opportunity to learn and understand the universe as no human ever had before. "Look at this one," the ship said, projecting an image of a planet with turquoise oceans and towering crystal formations. "Life. Fragile. Beautiful." Aaron's eyes widened. He had read about planets like this in theory, but seeing it through the Aurora's memory was extraordinary. "We have to study it," he whispered. "We have to understand and protect it." The ship pulsed softly, acknowledging his words. Aaron realized that their journey wasn't just about exploration, it was about responsibility. The universe was vast, full of wonders and secrets, and now that they had the knowledge and the ability to reach them, they also had the duty to approach with care and curiosity. Days passed as they traveled further into uncharted space. Aaron navigated with precision, guided by the Aurora's subtle instructions and its memories of distant systems. They discovered asteroid belts filled with rare minerals, gas clouds that glowed in brilliant colors, and moons with mysterious structures that suggested ancient civilizations. Every discovery reminded Aaron of the power of human curiosity and the importance of treating the unknown with respect. Through it all, the bond between mechanic and ship deepened. The Aurora responded not only to Aaron's touch but to his thoughts, his emotions, and his intentions. When he hesitated, the ship offered subtle guidance. When he made a choice, it adjusted smoothly, never forcing, but always supporting. Together, they became a seamless team, exploring the universe in harmony. One evening, as they floated near a cluster of small, icy planets, Aaron reflected on how far they had come. He thought of the days when he had been mocked for repairing the old wreck, when people had laughed at him for believing in the Aurora's potential. Now, those same people watched in awe as he piloted the ship beyond the port, into the stars. Aaron smiled softly. He realized that their journey was not just a personal achievement. It was a testament to human ingenuity, patience, and the courage to follow one's curiosity. The Aurora had chosen him, but he had also chosen to care, to persevere, and to see value where others saw none. That choice had led to this incredible moment. "Aaron," the ship whispered gently, lights pulsing softly. "Yes," he replied. "Together, always." Aaron felt warmth in his chest. "Yes," he said firmly. "Always." The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of mystery and possibility. The Aurora pulsed with energy, engines humming steadily, ready to explore further than it ever had before. Aaron knew that they would face challenges, that there would be unknown dangers, and that the universe held secrets beyond imagination. But with the Aurora by his side, he felt confident. They were ready. And so, the once-forgotten ship, restored by the hands of a young mechanic, soared into the unknown. Together, Aaron and the Aurora would explore distant worlds, uncover lost civilizations, and chart the stars in ways that no human or machine had ever done before. The hangar, the mocking voices, and the doubts of others were far behind them. What lay ahead was the universe itself, vast, beautiful, and waiting for discovery. Aaron looked out of the cockpit window, the stars reflecting in his eyes. The Aurora hummed gently beneath him, a living companion, a teacher, and a friend. Together, they would journey into the unknown, not just as mechanic and ship, but as explorers, partners, and witnesses to the wonders of the universe. And as the first light of a distant sun touched the edges of their path, Aaron whispered to the ship he had restored and brought to life, "Let's see everything, together." The aurora pulsed in reply, and the universe opened before them, endless, bright, and full of possibilities.